It's weird. You are always here, Presley. Always. I appreciate that. It's important to have you in class. So, Maniac Magee, one part legend, one part truth, one part facts, one part lies, exaggerations. Hard to say what's true and what's not. But as the legend goes, you have Maniac Magee. Tell me about him. He's fast. Fast at what? Thank you, Caleb. He's fast at running. In fact, he runs everywhere. There was something in part one. It said that there was the lost year. What happened in the lost year?
He ran away.
He ran away. Why did he run away?
Because what his guardian is, they didn't like each other and they would never talk.
Yeah, thank you for remembering that. Going back before that part, Mom and Dad die in a trolley accident. So do you guys know what a trolley is?
Yeah, like a bus.
It's like a little bus, like a mini train that takes you up and back and forth through cities and stuff. So you can jump on the trolley, helps you get from one city to another, or maybe you live outside the city, you might take the trolley into the city.
Did we finish chapter one?
We did. And so Mom and Dad die in this horrible trolley accident. How old was Maniac Magee when that happened?
30.
Yeah, he was 3. He's actually got a name. His name is Jeffrey, also known as Maniac Magee. I think in the first part of it, they list his name, Jeffrey Lionel Magee. But he goes by Maniac Magee, and eventually he freaks out in this big choir performance because is it his aunt and uncle that take care of him? They are not talking to each other. Aunt Dot and Uncle Dan do everything opposite. They don't talk to each other. They eat at separate tables. They have 2 of everything in their house because they, rather than get divorced, are going to stay together but are not getting along. And so Maniac Magee has had it. He's like, talk, why don't you just talk? And eventually he just takes off running. So he runs away. How far does he go?
He goes 200 miles.
200 miles. Excellent fact recall there, Paxton. He runs 200 miles. It takes him about a year to get 200 miles to the next town over. Well, I guess that's not really the next town over. And it's I'm trying to think about where he went to, the Schuylkill, across the Schuylkill, which I believe is a river, in Bridgeport, and I believe that's where he left off. Do you know what butterscotch crimpets are?
Yes.
What's a butterscotch crimpet? Turn off your laptop. What is a
Oh, look what I'm looking at.
crimpet?
They put this thing online. My daddy's buddy said he used to work at the elephant sanctuary. I'm watching elephants every day.
Awesome. There is the elephant sanctuary is pretty cool. And Gabe, you know Gabe?
No.
Gabe, I believe his dad or mom actually works currently, I think, for the elephant sanctuary,
That's what they do.
which is pretty amazing. That's right out here outside of, it's like Hohenwald outside of Mount Pleasant. So anyway, awesome. I don't mind if you watch them, but please follow along with the book. All right, so crimpets are a special like dessert kind of cupcake-ish type treat. And when I come across some, I'll be sure to bring some in so we can all try them here in this class period. Kind of like a Twinkie, but with frosting, but maybe even better and butterscotch flavored. They were really hard to find when I was up in Illinois, but now that I'm down here in Tennessee, I've actually seen them at the grocery store. So I'll see if I can pick up a package. Anyway, so we read chapter 1 and chapter 2. This is all part of part 1. We are now on chapter 3. As for the first person to actually stop and talk with Maniac, that would be Amanda Beale. And it happened because of a mistake. It was around 8 in the morning and Amanda was heading for grade school like hundreds of other kids all over town. What made Amanda different was that she was carrying a suitcase, and that's what caught Maniac's eye. He figured she was like him, running away, so he stopped and said, "Hi." Amanda was suspicious. Who was this white stranger kid? And what was he doing on the East End, where almost all the kids were black? And why was he saying that? All right, so I got to stop here. We left this very significant part out. You have the West End, you have the East End of town. All the white kids live on the West End. All the black kids live on the East End. Maniac Magee is a white kid, and he's on the East Side, and he's saying hi to everybody.
So now he's like the odd one out.
Yeah, he's like the odd one out because he's the only white kid. And the black kid, Amanda Beale, is like, why is this white kid talking to me? There's clearly some separation based on race, color of their skin. In Maniac Magee, there's nothing in here that says that he wouldn't talk to those people. So he just walks up and says hi, and they're kind of like, at this time in this story, people from one side of town to the other don't talk to each other. And here's Maniac Magee breaking down those barriers, saying, hi. But Amanda Beale was also friendly, so she stopped and said, hi, back. Are you running away? Jeffrey asked her. Huh? Asked Amanda, or said Amanda. Jeffrey pointed at the suitcase. Amanda frowned, then thought, and then laughed. She laughed so hard she began to lose her balance, so she set the suitcase down and sat on it so she could laugh more safely. When at last she could speak, she said, I'm not running away, I'm going to school. She saw the puzzlement on his face. She got off the suitcase and opened it right there on the sidewalk. Jeffrey gasped. Books! Books, all right. Both sides of the suitcase were crammed with them. Dozens more than anyone would ever need for homework. Jeffrey fell to his knees. He and Amanda in the suitcase were like a rock in a stream. The schoolgoers just flowed to the left and to the right around them. He turned his head this way and that to read the titles. He lifted the books on top to see the ones beneath. There were fiction books and nonfiction books, who did it books and let's be friend books and what is it books and how to books and how not to books and just regular kid books. On the bottom was a single volume from an encyclopedia. It was the letter A. It's my library, Amanda said proudly. Somebody called, you're going to be late for school, girl. Amanda looked up. The street was almost deserted. She slammed the suitcase shut and started hauling it along. Jeffrey took the suitcase from her. I'll carry it for you. Amanda's eyes shot wide. She hesitated, and then she snatched it back. Who are you? She said, I'm Jeffrey Magee. Where are you from? West End? No. She stared at him. The flap-soled sneakers. Back in those days, the town was pretty much divided. The East End was blacks. The West End was whites. I know you're not from the East End. I'm from Bridgeport. Bridgeport? Over there? That Bridgeport? Yep. Well, why aren't you there? It's where I'm from. It's not where I am. Great. So where do you live? Jeffrey looked around. I don't know. Maybe here? Maybe? Amanda shook her head and chuckled. Maybe you better go ask your mother and father if you live here or not. She speeded up. Jeffrey dropped back for a second, then caught up with her. Why are you taking all these books to school? Amanda told him. She told him about her little brother and sister at home who loved to crayon every piece of paper they could find, whether or not it already had type all over it, and about the dog, Bow Wow, who chewed everything he could get his teeth on. And that, she said, was why she carried her whole library to and from school every day. Anybody have a little brother or sister at home that ruins all your stuff?
Both of them. If I had a baby sister and they ruined my stuff,
You would not be happy about that?
I got a brother and a sister.
So you'd put your stuff up high. My oldest really struggles. Liam struggles with the idea that his little brothers and sister always mess with his stuff because he's the oldest and he's like, this is my stuff, don't mess with it. And inevitably, one of the younger ones will break something that's his, and he's like, you broke my stuff again, you're never allowed to play with it. We will leave paperwork out, like if there's a bill or something that's got to be paid, it's inevitable it'll get scribbled pen on it with crayon or pen. Sometimes, could you get the door for me, please? Every once in a while, a crayon or a pen or something will be left out, and our kids will draw on stuff. Like my little Rilo. This was probably right after we painted our cabinets white. Rilo got a black Sharpie out of a box that we have the Sharpies in that's up in a cabinet on the second shelf above the counter. So it's like way up here. And he was able to get a hold of that Sharpie, and it might have been blue. Either way, it was a Sharpie. And he just scribbled all over one of our cabinets, and my wife and I were like, ah! We woke up that morning, we were like, no! And we had to wipe it down and try to get it off, and you could still see where that was. So little brothers and sisters mess with stuff all the time. Amanda's got all her stuff protected, and she's carrying it around in a briefcase. First bell was ringing. The school was still a block away. Amanda ran. Jeffrey ran. Can I have a book, he said. They're mine, she said. Well, just to read, just to borrow. No. Please. What's your name? Amanda. Please, Amanda. Anyone. Your shortest one. I'm late now, and I'm not going to stop and open this thing up again. Forget it. He stopped. Amanda. She kept running, then stopped, turned, glared. What kind of kid was this anyway? All grungy, ripped shirt. Why didn't he go back to Bridgeport or the West End where he belonged? Bother some white girl up there. Why was she still standing there? So, what if I loaned you one, huh? How am I going to get it back? I'll bring it back, honest. If it's the last thing I do, what's your address? 728 Sycamore, but you can't come there. You can't even be here. Second bell rang. Amanda screamed, whirled, ran. Ah! Amanda! She stopped and turned. Oh, she squeaked. She tore a book from the suitcase, hurled it at him. Here! And then she dashed into school. The book came flapping like a wounded duck and fell at Jeffrey's feet. It was the story of the Children's Crusade. Jeffrey picked it up, and Amanda Beale was late to school for the only time in her life. Why did she share her book with Jeffrey? And why is that such a big deal?
Because he was from Bridgeport and...
He's from Bridgeport.
No, he was from the east side.
He's not. He's from Bridgeport. But she's from the east side.
East side.
Think white west. So easy way to remember it. So the white kids are from the west side. Black kids are from the east side. And here's this white kid who's not from the West End, but actually from Bridgeport. She's like, well, why don't you go back there? Because he's not supposed to be there because that's where all the black kids are. And there's clearly this division between blacks and whites in this town at this time. And he's just talking to her like, it's a regular old day. Hey, can I borrow a book? She's like
she's white too.
She's not. She's black.
I don't know.
Did say that. So why does she loan him a book?
Because I think she's just being nice and wants to leave him alone.
Because he kept asking.
He kept asking her, kept bothering her. Maybe she just wants to be nice. She meets a kid that really wants to read a book, which, you know, as much as it pains me to say this, not all kids really enjoy reading books.
That's me. I hate it.
Oh, breaking my heart, Presley.
Oh, good.
Just got to read the right books, man. We'll get you the right ones. This is a good one. So she loans him a book. Maybe he likes reading. Maybe they, I don't know, I'm foreshadowing. Maybe they create this friendship, which would be different at that time period because this is the time period where blacks and whites did not, sounds like they did not socialize. Especially when she says, like, you're not even supposed to be here. I think she's alluding to the fact that he's white and he shouldn't be there in that town with all the black people. Chapter 4. Ooh, we can do chapter 4. Jeffrey made 3 other appearances that first day. The first came at one of the high school fields during 11th grade gym class. Most of the students were playing soccer, but about a dozen were playing football because they were on varsity, and the gym teacher happened to be the football coach. The star quarterback, Brian Dennehy, wound up and threw a 60-yarder to his favorite receiver, James Hands Down, who was streaking a fly pattern down the sideline. What a good name, James Down, but he goes by the name Hands Down. Hands are good for receiving, and hands down means like, you know, like when you're the best at something, like hands down, Paxton is the best at catching footballs. James Hands Down, who was streaking a fly pattern down the sideline, but the ball never quite reached Hands. Just as he was about to cradle it in his big brown loving mitts, it vanished. By the time he recovered from the shock, a little kid was weaving upfield through the varsity football players. Nobody laid a paw on him. When the kid got down to the soccer field, he turned and then he punted the ball. It sailed back over the up-looking gym classers, spiraling more perfectly than anything Brian Dennehy had ever thrown, and landed in the outstretched hands of the still stunned Hands Down. And then the kid ran off. There's one other thing, something that all of them saw, but no one believed until they compared notes after school that day. Up until the punt, the kid had done everything with one hand. He had to because in his other hand was a book. So here's Maniac Magee running through the field, sees this big 60-yard bomb pass, and he intercepts it, but he catches it with one hand. He's about 10, 11. He's about your age. And he holds on to it. He continues to run and bob and weave through all the players. None of the players can catch him. He sprints through all the entire practice. And then he takes the ball one-handed, probably still running. Boom, and he boots it. And all the kids are impressed that he did all of that just one-handed.